Joining us now is Alistair MacGregor, the NDP Member of Parliament for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford in British Columbia. He also sits on the committee that is summoning the CEOs. Mr. MacGregor, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi Michael, how are you?
I'm good. You know, your committee has already heard from food execs. Why the need now to reach out for CEOs?
Well, I was quite disappointed when we saw the vice presidents of the big three companies appear, because in my mind, when your industry has got such a crisis of confidence and trust, I think real leaders show up and they publicly defend their companies. And it was always my intention that the CEOs and presidents of these companies would come before our committee. And so I just thought adding some clarity to the motion last night, making sure that the word summons was in there, that was important. And, I was not alone. We managed to have that motion passed unanimously, so that means my Conservative and Liberal colleagues and the Bloc Québécois, I think they all understand the importance of this moment, and they voted in favor of it. So it's nice to see a strong unanimous vote coming from our Agriculture Committee on this particular motion.
But do those CEOs, do they risk becoming political pawns? If the answers are not really going to be that different, what's the point of having them there if not for political spectacle?
I don't think this is political spectacle. I mean, these are real-life issues for Canadians. Like, so many Canadians from coast to coast to coast are going into the grocery store each and every week, and they're watching astronomical food prices. They are making incredibly difficult decisions. And you juxtapose that with the incredible profits that these companies make. I mean, you have to remember that in a corporate structure, the president and the CEO is largely responsible for setting the direction of the company. And they very quickly get fired or are demoted if they don't bring in profits. So I think having the leader of the company in to answer for this time of high inflation, which I believe is directly linked to corporate profiteering, I think it's important for them to step up to the plate and to answer for their company's policies. Okay,
you describe it as corporate profiteering, but the Competition Bureau, they have already been asked to study food prices by the government. But ahead of that report, whenever it comes out, they're already looking at factors like extreme weather, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, supply chain issues. Aren't those credible reasons?
They are, but also, if you tuned into last night's committee meeting, you'll also see that, we looked at other sectors. I mean, my Conservative friends like to talk a lot about the carbon tax. What they don't talk about, though, is that since 2019, large oil and gas companies have seen an increase in their profits of 1,011%. So I think the evidence is very clear that in so many critical sectors, if you look at the jump in profits from the last pre-pandemic year, that's 2019, up until today, all of those critical sectors have been going up. So absolutely, I believe that corporations, many different sectors have been taking advantage of the troubled times that we have found ourselves in, especially over the last 3 years. I acknowledge that climate change is happening, that there is a war going on in Ukraine, but despite all of those costs in the supply chains, the net profits of these corporations are still going up, and that is the important thing to underline.
Does Parliament risk, though, telling a corporation, a company, whether it's grocery or otherwise, what profit level is allowed? Because if it is profits and the profitability of grocery stores being raised, just how profitable are they allowed to be before they get into trouble?
No, I don't think we should be managing their internal affairs. What I'm ultimately trying to do is to build a strong case for an excess profits tax, a strong case for a wealth tax. I think it's time for Canadians to stand up and stop being so deferential to corporate power in Canada. And I think it's time for my Liberal and Conservative colleagues in particular to do just that. It's time for us to look at these incredible profit margins and to institute these kinds of taxes, especially an excess profits tax, because you look at how many Canadians are suffering just to put food on the table, just to pay the rent, just to fill up their cars, and you juxtapose that with the huge profit margins that are being made in this day and age. That's the argument I'm trying to make, is that we need to institute these policies to redistribute that incredible wealth and put it back in the pockets of Canadians who so desperately need it. That's what I am trying to do as a policymaker.
So what happens if the CEOs refuse to show up?
If they refuse to show up, that's something that our committee is going to have to take a look at. I expect our next steps would be to refer the matter to the House of Commons and to the Speaker, because we only have as much power as the House gives us. So that will be something that the Speaker and ultimately the House will have to make a decision on.
Alistair MacGregor, really appreciate the time tonight. Thank you for that.
Appreciate your interest, Michael. Thank you.